The Mario Kart franchise is truly fascinating. It's a series of fast-paced, action-packed racing games where going at top speed all the time isn't everything. Certainly you have to pay the most attention to choosing the right gear, from a matter of simply kart selection in earlier games to equipping custom tires and gliders in more recent installments. And although not to the same degree, picking the right character can make a difference. Tons of different Mario characters have hopped into go-karts and graced the wide selection of oddball and gimmicky courses. And while most, if not all of them at this point have established themselves as mainstays in the Mario Kart series, the more recent games have included some highly questionable additions to the ever-growing roster. These characters constantly have me asking myself, what were they smoking? Now, in order to avoid confusion regarding the title of this video, yes, I'm defining a bad Mario Kart character purely on the basis of that character wasting a roster slot. Basically a playable driver in any one Mario Kart title that feels like a throwaway for one reason or another, or otherwise just sticks out among the rest of the roster. I'll be considering what minor roles they may have had prior to being included in Mario Kart, and whether they were included solely for the purpose of expanding the roster, although that last point is going to be a little more subjective. And I'm only counting characters from Mario Kart DS onwards, because games prior to Mario Kart DS did a stellar job of both expanding and improving the roster, but as you can already imagine, from that point on the devs seem to really shoot themselves in the foot several times over with some of the roster additions they've made in recent years. Case in point, the Inklings from Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and I'm counting both the boy and the girl here. I was initially going to have them share the number 10 spot, but while I was writing the script, I realized there was at least one more character that definitely deserved to make the list, so I decided to bump the Squid Kids down to the level of dishonorable mention because I didn't want to delete my ramblings about these guys and totally forget what I was going to say about them. But even then, I didn't want to include them on this list because I had so much fun playing as the adorable little shits, well, one of them at least, and they have their own battle course based directly on a Splatoon Turf War stage. Anyway, I had an assload to say about the Inklings, so bear with me here. When the Wii U version of Mario Kart 8 got its share of DLC, I noticed they went a little overboard with bringing in characters from different franchises altogether, including The Legend of Zelda, Animal Crossing, and 2 stages and a kart based on F-Zero. I'm giving those guys a pass based on the level of how different and somewhat refreshing they are. Not to mention you didn't actually have to have the downloadable courses or characters to get the full Mario Kart 8 experience. As well, their inclusion in a Mario Kart 8 Deluxe cartridge I think helped their cases as legit Mario Kart drivers. It's not Mario Kart 9 by any means, so why go back on what you'd established previously? With that said, the Deluxe port did include 6 characters that weren't in the Wii U original, including the 2 Inkling characters. The other 4 were King Boo, Gold Mario, Dry Bones, and Bowser Jr. Are you noticing a pattern here? Gold Mario is just an unlockable variant of Metal Mario, but the other 3 have all been playable in previous Mario Karts. Since Splatoon came out just after the last DLC pack for Mario Kart 8, seeing the Squid Kids in the Deluxe trailer, they came off as drivers I didn't know I wanted, but that brings up the question of why the fuck Birdo and Diddy Kong still aren't in this game. The Inklings are middleweight class in Deluxe, and the aforementioned Birdo and Diddy were also middleweight in Mario Kart Wii, but the latter two, aside from also being included in Double Dash, are mainstays in spin-off franchises related directly to the core Super Mario series. I'd be singing a different tune if they had set the Squid Kids as a single character and made one gender a variant of another. They actually did this with the 2 villagers for the DLC pack, and the villagers even have radically different stats, more than enough proof that they could have easily made room for Birdo and Diddy Kong had they just set the 2 Inklings as variants of one character slot, but it turns out the villagers now take up 2 spots, which, like I said before, turns on what the DLC established. Nice going, Nintendo. So while the villagers had something to do with it, it's the Inklings' fault that we still had no sign of some classic Mario Kart characters, yet another reason why in retrospect they indeed don't make a lot of sense to be in a Mario Kart game. Hell, I'd picture them getting into Smash long before I ever considered them as potential Mario Kart drivers. Smash is the definition of a crossover series. It only now seems like Mario Kart is just trying to replicate that these days. Ugh, that was a mouthful. Now let's get the countdown rolling, shall we? So at this point, you might be asking me, wait, the Inklings are not even Mario characters to begin with, so how could anyone else bump them off the list? To which I say,
you need to shut the fuck up!
Whether they're from the Mario franchise doesn't mean shit. The hard truth is, if you're developing Mario Kart 8 and plan to include 30 playable characters, which is 6 more than were in Mario Kart Wii, people will be expecting you to diversify with the unused slots. Instead, what Nintendo did to fill this gap is why these characters are number 10 on my worst list. Guess how many character slots I take up? Not 1, not 2, not 3, 7. Yes, I'm putting them all in one slot. Larry Koopa, Morton Koopa Jr., Wendy O. Koopa, Iggy Koopa, Roy Koopa, Lemmy Koopa, Ludwig von Koopa,
the Professor and Mary Ann.
I mean, was it really that necessary to feature all 7 of these bastards? Why not just Larry and Ludwig, or just Iggy and Lemmy? Before the new Super Mario Bros. Series, the Koopalings' main claim to fame was as each of the first 7 world bosses in Super Mario Bros. 3, which was an instant classic, and in Super Mario World, in which they inexplicably became pathetically easy to kill. Not surprisingly, they had been nowhere to be found for the next 18 years, so it's understandable if they made their long-awaited return in New Super Mario Bros. Wii for nostalgia's sake. But then they were brought back again, and again, and again, and again. Like, what was the goddamn point? The new series is not new anymore. They're no longer nostalgic, they're just plain annoying. I'm also pretty salty that all 7 Koopalings were introduced at the same time in Mario Kart 8, and yet Bowser Jr., one of the most prominent Koopas of all time, was left out. Is there any reason why just 3 of these guys couldn't have been presented as playable drivers in Mario Kart 7, where they at least would have made 1,000 times more sense than several of the later entries on this list? I think you know where this is going. Not to mention, they all had to be unlocked through completion of the Grand Prix mode anyway, and I can imagine the disappointment among those who actually like the Koopalings of not being able to play as just one of them right off the bat, or Bowser Jr. at all. It's just uncomfortably spontaneous. Like, look, we have all 7 of the Koopalings in Mario Kart 8. Have fun unlocking them all. Bitches. In my early days of playing Mario Kart Wii, I always used to believe that other than the obvious class distinctions, it made no difference which character I picked. If I was looking for pure speed, I'd pick a heavyweight racer. If I wanted a vehicle with tight maneuverability, I'd go with a middleweight. This might seem obvious now, but one of the things that bothered me the most about this game as I played on and got to check out the worldwide best time trials on a consistent, because they turned out to allegedly be the fastest drivers in their respective weight classes, all the world records seem to gravitate towards using 2 very specific characters. One of which has had next to nothing to do with the core Mario platforming series, and the other is Funky Kong. Obviously a tie-in with the Donkey Kong games instead, but it got me wondering why the devs would have chosen him for that 23rd character slot. I mean, the other 7 heavyweights in this game make a lot more sense. You got your big 4 on the top, King Boo from Double Dash, Dry Bowser as a reference to New Super Mario Bros., and of course Space Waifu Rosalina. I would cut them slack for running out of plugs to pull to have resorted to Funky Kong, but then you remember Petey Piranha to complete the OG GameCube duo, or perhaps another forgotten character I will be discussing very shortly because he was also included in a previous installment. But hey, if you're gonna make an oddball selection for a Mario Kart driver, you might as well commit to that pick by giving him a funky battle arena. There, I said it. That was well played. Now let's talk about the next guy. So Mario Kart DS was, in my view, the first game to feature a slightly questionable choice for a Mario Kart character, but thankfully the number 8 spot on this list is the only character in that game for which I feel that way. You unlock Rob the Robot by completing all the Mirror Mode Grands Prix with a 1-star rating or higher, but admittedly he is a tad OP, which justifies those ridiculous unlock criteria. He's the fastest racer alongside Bowser, but his karts have much better handling and get far greater mini-turbo boosts. The only reason I can think that the devs would want to put Rob in a Mario Kart game would be to say, hey, look what Rob can do. Like introducing him to an audience that has never heard of that robot accessory for your old Nintendo console. I was obviously a member of that audience. Yeah, way before Mario Kart DS, Rob started out as a companion toy compatible with only 2 NES games you've probably never heard of, so it feels random enough on its own to compete for the top spot. But another reason I consider Rob to be such a throwaway is that the playable roster in Mario Kart DS took a huge step back from Double Dash, from an impressive 20 to a measly 12, which is still more than each of the first 3 games in the series, but every game prior to DS limited the racer choices of characters were already mainstays in the Mario universe, which includes Dry Bones, who also made his racing debut in the DS title. Also, Dry Bones was a perfect fit for Desert Hills, but its staff course has Rob rocking the desert course instead. Obviously, Sunshine and Luigi's Mansion were still running rampant at the time, and they thus had quite the impact on the game's selection of race and battle stages, so maybe they could have lent one of their big bosses to take Rob's place? I could see a monarchical ghost using abilities from the other side to make his racing skills OP. I'll be honest, I both really dislike and suck so bad at Mario Kart 7, so as such it took me forever to unlock all the characters. For the longest time, I was totally unaware that Mario Kart mainstays like Waluigi, King Boo, and Dry Bowser were not included in this game, but instead we were treated to Metal Mario, further proving that in 2011 Nintendo had gone over the top with the throwbacks. Like, it's one thing to feature the Super Leaf in a new Mario platformer after having been shelved for more than 20 years. Now all of a sudden we're seeing a powered up version of Mario that hadn't seen the light of day in a platforming game since Super Mario 64, 15 years prior, or as his own entity in any game since Dr. Mario 10 years prior, and a Mario Kart game as a separate driver altogether. Just to clarify, I'm only focusing on his appearance in Mario Kart 7, in which there are only 16 playable drivers. Whether hardware limitations were holding the roster back or not, obviously that meant several of the drivers from Mario Kart Wii inevitably would have been shafted. I mean, look at the downgrade from Double Dash to Mario Kart DS. But for whatever reason, out of the 16 characters in this roster, 5 of them made their racing debut in this game. Now, I can forgive 2 of them for being so iconic in the Mario universe, but Metal Mario is not really an icon. He was nothing more than a power-up in Mario 64 before kind of taking a life on his own in Smash, forgotten for 10 years, and then pushed into Mario Kart 7 because reasons. I would have given him a break if one of the courses were metallic or largely based on Mario 64, at least that would have helped his case for being playable in Mario Kart, but the only reference I could find was a view of Peach's castle in Mario Circuit. Again. And it's not like Metal Mario is supposed to be OP either. Apparently all the unlockable drivers are required by completing a certain Grand Prix in the 150cc class, which by itself is pretty lame. So what, do I get jack shit for a sweep in mirror mode now? Also, I can imagine had I just blindly played through the game, completing one of these Grand Prix, discovered I'd finally unlock a new driver, and he turns out to be a metallic alternate form of Mario, something I didn't know was even a thing, or at least capable of being his own entity. At that point, I'd probably have just dropped my 3DS into the shitter and said, well, I tried. I have a first of its kind taking the number 6 spot on this list. a character that was created specifically for Mario Kart. This was inevitably going to happen at some point, and it's certainly not the last time an unknown face graced the playable roster. Guess I'll stop at the gas station for a snack. Baby Daisy first appeared in Mario Kart Wii, and she alongside Baby Peach pushed the number of baby characters to 4, which feels like overkill in a roster consisting of 24 racers, especially since I can only think of one situation where using a baby character would be beneficial. Baby Mario and Baby Luigi were already established racers in Double Dash, and Baby Peach was a supporting character in Partners in Time along with the aforementioned Baby Mario brothers, so clearly they had much stronger cases for being included in Mario Kart Wii, but Baby Daisy? Okay, I don't hate her as a playable character when the roster is as big and inclusive as it is, but I can't be led to believe the devs ran out of options for a lightweight character to fill in the final roster slot. Sure, they might have exhausted every character they've been using in previous Mario Kart games, but even by that point, the Mario character list had become so expansive, like they could have taken several ideas from Mario Golf or Mario Tennis or Mario Superstar Baseball. Think outside the box or something. Or maybe this should have been the game to debut Shy Guy, or dare I say, Lakitu stating Lakitu. See, either one of those would have worked. Like I mentioned before, any Mario aficionado would recognize either Shy Guy or Lakitu, and there are probably some fans out there who would have loved to play as these guys. And here I am wondering why you guys hate Lakitu so much. Long story short, Baby Daisy didn't need to come to fruition. If anything, she could have waited until Mario Super Sluggers. I mean, that can't be anywhere near as serious as Mario Kart. Let's be real here. Determining where to rank Pink Gold Peach in this list was a tough decision. Both she and Baby Daisy are alternate forms of existing characters that had never been heard of prior to their inclusions in Mario Kart, with Baby Daisy rounding out a roster of 24 characters, so on the surface it doesn't seem like much of an atrocity for Pink Gold Peach to be chosen to complete a roster of 30, until you remember that 7 of those slots were taken up by the Koopalings, and better established racers like King Boo, Dry Bowser, and especially Bowser Jr. were shafted in favor of 7 outright brats that have quite frankly overstayed their re-welcome into the mainstream. With that said, I have begrudgingly placed Pink Gold Peach at number 5. Now yes, both she and Baby Daisy have different racing statistics from the princess racers that inspire them, but Baby Daisy is far more radical a departure from Daisy's form, albeit more than likely we have Baby Peach to thank instead for someone conceiving her into Mario Kart in the first place. Pink Gold Peach, on the other hand, while much faster and heavier, she looks just like Princess Peach. And she acts a lot like her too. She even has the same animations, and even with her seemingly game-breaking stat changes, she is still technically classed as a middleweight, just like Princess Peach. That is in the deluxe port. In the Wii U original, she's actually a heavyweight, basically the lightest of the bunch, but you never tell by looking at the two side by side. Even Metal Mario appears much larger than the real Italian stallion, oddly enough, so what gives? Now hold up a pizza flippin' frame rate, so if the dev team was really looking for one more heavyweight driver to fill out that roster spot, well, what about the other oddball characters from past Mario Kart titles? I've already mentioned 5 of those guys. Could none of them seriously have shared Metal Mario stats? And I know 2 of them ended up coming back for the Switch version, but even then I can understand why some Mario Kart enthusiasts are so triggered by her very existence. Or maybe one of the devs just got the idea for Pink Gold Peach long before the development process ever started and he just stuck with that without ever considering Funky Kong or Petey Piranha. But still, this is undeniably one of the biggest throwaways I've ever seen. Now you might be asking me, hey, if I like playing as Pink Gold Peach, then why the hell is she on my worst list anyway? Let me be very real with you. This list is not entirely about me hating their inclusion of Mario Kart. I'm trying to think a little objectively in my rankings for this list instead of subjectively, although sometimes I can't help ranting about the things that really make me lose my shit. Continuing my lengthy but hopefully tied in ramblings, in the case of Mario Kart, usually I only play as 2 or 3 characters ever depending on either the engine class or course difficulty, so I don't really think much about these next 4 entries regarding whether I actually like them or not as playable drivers. Take Cat Peach for example. She's another alternate form of the First Lady of Gaming, so naturally I would shamelessly summon her into Mario Kart 8 to get around the tightest of corners at a ridiculous speed, or T-bone a wall trying. The only difficulty here is that Cat Peach has a character slot all to herself, and that means I have to put her in my worst list of course. But oh no, she didn't take just any old character slot. Nope, Cat Peach is a special case in that she's a downloadable racer, included in a pack that also features Link of all characters. Yeah, Mario Kart 8 for the Wii U featured 2 DLC packs, and my theory is that the dev team was trying a cross-promotion tactic to get more people to notice their other franchises like, hey, if you like Mario Kart, then maybe you'll like The Legend of Zelda. Give our guy Link a shot if you like. Obviously, he's never been in a Mario Kart game, so we wouldn't want him to intrude in your playing experience. And who knows, maybe the zaning racing experience will end up suiting Link's penchant for adventure. The same point can be made for Animal Crossing and F-Zero, the other franchises that lent themselves to being included as Mario Kart DLC. So that's all good and dandy, but then you have Cat Peach. I know, she's got her own set of animations and voice cues and all that, and she's quite slower and lighter than her normal princess counterpart, but I don't think Cat Peach was the optimal choice for filling a roster slot, especially when she sticks out in the DLC selection clearly made to promote other franchises altogether. But even then, she's not even the worst offender in that category. I think you all know where this is going. So clearly the developers missed several great opportunities in their DLC selections. I have to think somewhere in that boardroom someone must have been thinking, well, we have Link here, so why not put him Zelda? There, problem solved. Or we have the Excite Bike Arena here, so why not put in the Excite Bike guy? What was his name again? Or better yet, we have both Mute City here, as well as Big Blue to be featured in the next pack, so why not put in Captain Falcon himself? Don't we hear all the F-Zero fans gushing at that thought? Or how about this? We have Cat Peach here, so why not put in Tanuki Mario? Guess which one obviously got the pick. Okay, maybe it didn't go like that. This is Mario Kart after all. Now, I get it. Maybe Tanuki Mario and Cat Peach were a ploy used to promote the 3D-ish Mario games. I don't know if at that point they could classify Tanuki Mario as a throwback to Super Mario 3, but Cat Peach was def ripped right out of Mario 3D World. Whether I enjoy their games doesn't make a damn difference. The hard truth is that these guys are clones, yet more alternative forms of existing characters. That means we got 4 Mario clones and 4 Peach clones. Tanuki Mario, however, is the bigger dud in that regard. Why? He plays pretty much like the true Mario, with just about the same statistics, the exact same animations, and probably the same voice cues too. At least Cat Peach had a little more variation. Remember in Double Dash how each set of characters had their own special items only they could pick up? Deploying that mechanic all over again might have helped Tanuki Mario's case, like if the Super Leaf from Mario Kart 7 returned as an item that only Tanuki Mario could use. If not, at least it would have better justified his inclusion as a racer. But alas, he's just there. And I know the Super Leaf was also in 3D World, but I'm pretty sure they were intending this to be more of a 3D Land reference, and wouldn't you know it, not one of these DLC courses ties into 3D Land, assuming it has an identity that can be translated into a Mario Kart stage in the first place. Here's a scenario for you. Let's say you're on the development team for Mario Kart 8 and the roster is basically all set with 29 characters ready to race, but you've been tasked with coming up with one more racer, specifically a lightweight driver. Maybe this graphic will help you. Now what character is missing from this picture that would go great with all the other drivers? You might think why the OG tank driving Tiny Titan himself, Dry Bones of course. But if you haven't played Mario Kart DS, then maybe you're thinking Nabbit from New Super Mario U, or remember when Spike of all enemies was in Mario Party 10? Maybe they thought about him a year earlier. However, if you're like me, you might have once again taken inspiration from the other sports spin-off franchises, like a regular Boo to complement King Boo, another Koopa and Magic Koopa, or how about the triumphant return of the Goomba? If they can baseball, who's to say they can't also Mario Kart? The point is, the possibilities were limitless when it came to reusing an existing character from a 29-year-old franchise. In reality, in order to fill out a roster that already featured baby versions of 4 existing characters, Nintendo created a 5th baby character, Baby Rosalina. At this point, can we even say that the babies have any personality? At least I'm not seeing anything that makes any of the baby princesses stand out. They're all basically clones of one another, pretty much sharing the same statistics in both versions of Mario Kart 8. And I know what you're gonna say, so allow me to refute your incoming argument. I thought the additions of both Baby Peach and Baby Daisy were pointless enough in Mario Kart Wii, until I realized Baby Peach had already existed in concept, at which point I redirected my distaste only towards Baby Daisy. For Mario Kart 8, I fully expected all 4 existing babies to return, not finding any reason for or foreseeing the potential for a 5th baby character in the Wii U installment. That's the state of the baby situation right now, and seeing as her only game appearances to date have been in Mario Kart, Baby Rosalina is, in my view, the one character that least needed to exist. We're at the moment of truth, guys. I bet at this point you have 2 very clear ideas on who's going to be left with the top spot, a queen bitch or a crazy caterpillar. So now, which one gets the displeasure of being labeled the worst character in Mario Kart? I've picked Honey Queen, and I've picked Wiggler. Yes, both Honey Queen and Wiggler at the same time have been the worst choices ever to have raced in a go-kart. For starters, their one appearance in Mario Kart 7 was quite random. They got to race for the first time on the 3DS, and then they just got canned again. What was the goddamn point? Second, neither of these guys would have ever been on my mind regarding possible inclusions in the playable roster. Honey Queen was a very, very minor character in the Mario Galaxy series in which pretty much her only use was as a prop in both games to get a Power Star. Not to mention, she too appeared to have 0 personality in those games aside from seeming very ticklish. Wiggler, on the other hand, while he's definitely a mainstay in the core Mario series, he just works so better as an enemy or an obstacle, and he's been presented as such in literally every other game he's appeared in, from Mario Kart Wii to Mario Party 9 to Paper Jam. Like, literally the only other games in which he's playable are Mario Power Tennis and Mario Super Sluggers, both of which boom tremendously with playable characters. In that regard, I'm utterly baffled that someone on the dev team drank enough liquid crack to think that both a giant bitch and a fucking caterpillar were worthy enough to be featured as 2 of the 16 playable characters from the 3DS installment of Mario Kart. Ugh. While we're on the subject, please God tell me one thing. Whatever happened to Diddy swinging across the Maple Treeway? Now you have Wiggler trying to avoid Wiggler. That would be like other Luigi actively hindering our Luigi's progress in the second half of Mario Galaxy. As well, 3DS Rainbow Road is once again an epic space adventure, isn't that right, Space Waifu? So why the fuck is Rosalina relegated to slip sliding away on ice, and why the bloody hell did Queen Bitch get the halfway gay spacewalk? It's so fucking stupid. And while we're at it, it's all thanks to both Wiggler and Honey Queen that Waluigi wasn't playable in Mario Kart 7. And I'm well aware that 90% of the internet has still been out of shape that he will never ever get into Super Smash Mouth, but I guarantee you the one catalyst that influenced everyone to hop on the Waluigi bandwagon was Mario Kart 7. Seriously, you know your Mario Kart game has major maturity issues when you can play in Waluigi pinball but you can't even race as Purple Prize as himself. You know, after making this list, I came to realize several of the iconic racers in this franchise are extremely underappreciated and deserve every single checkered flag they achieve in a Mario Kart race. So I'll make you a deal here. If we can get this video to 1,000 dislikes, I'll put out a sequel where I list the 10 best racers in the Mario Kart series. But as we all know, my channel is uber sporadic and reaching a number like that is therefore a long shot, but I believe in you little woomies. Until then, let me know your thoughts on this video and tell me which Mario Kart characters you hate in the comment section below. Share this video with your friends, rate it even if you hate it, and then click on that big red button underneath this video, and once you've done that, tap on the little bell icon next to it. You got all that? Good. Remember, if you want to see my shit a day before I post it onto YouTube, then consider pledging a monthly tip on Patreon. Don't know what Patreon is? Me neither. Okay, I'm probably really busy at the moment, but please check out one of these videos right here. Okay, thanks, bye.